calm down. Thor Odinson, Crown Prince of Asgard.
Welcome back to the Screen Crush Break Room. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in What If, Episode 9. So the episode begins with a variation of one of the first scenes in Captain America Winter Soldier, except this time it's Captain Carter as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Notice that her uniform has taken on a more stealth suit modification, just like Steve's had in Winter Soldier. Thanks Andrew Barca for that observation. Now, I always ask on Twitter for any Easter eggs that you might have caught, and today, Gregory Basor gave me like a million, so I'm going to drop his name a few times in the video. For instance, he pointed out that the name of the ship, the Lemurian Star, is a variation of the Winter Soldier's Lemurian Star. Now this matters at the end credits when we see that they were not carrying Zola's algorithm on the boat, they were hauling Steve and the Hydra Stomper, but more on that later in the video. And the Widow is trying to set her up on a date, just like she did Steve in the Winter Soldier.
You know, Bernard in accounting was asking about you.
You know, if you ask Kristen out from statistics, she'd probably say yes.
But remember, one of the people that Natasha was trying to get him to ask out was indeed Sharon Carter, an undercover S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. So, more than likely, Bernard from accounting is another spy assigned to potentially keep tabs on a super soldier. But Nat also rubs in the loss of Steve.
What if his name was Steve?
Which was interesting. I could never imagine anyone teasing Steve about Peggy. Maybe this is because she and Nat have a closer relationship, relating as two women in their field. Maybe Natasha even looked up to Peggy as she was growing up in Ohio. The leap from the plane and landing on the ship are pretty much beat for beat copied from the Winter Soldier.
I'm a pretty good dancer, too.
And this is a callback to her and Steve constantly teasing their dance together.
I never was much of a dancer anyway.
Maybe you haven't found the right partner.
And then she faces off against Batroc the Leaper just like Steve did in Winter Soldier. And then the Watcher begins his recruitment.
You have been chosen.
So his phrasing, "you have been chosen," seems lifted from the original Contest of Champions comic, where Grandmaster and the Collector pick different heroes to fight one another as part of a big cosmic wager. But this whole episode is actually lifted from the comic What If number 39, What If the Watcher Saved the Universe, where Uatu interferes by gathering varying characters from the multiverse to save the Timekeepers from destruction. So then we go through various universes from this season. We see Ego using Peter to begin the expansion, as was teased in episode 2.
Can't spare a little time for dear old dad.
And of course, this Dairy Queen is the same one where his mom worked, where Ego hid his flower in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh, flower, pollinate. I just got that. We see T'Challa's ship the Mandela leading the other Ravager ships as he saves Peter Quill. But Ego also says,
Relax, son. It'll all be over in 1,000 years or so.
So wait, this would have taken 1,000 years and he was just like counting on no one interrupting him in all that time? It turns out that Ego's big master plan would have been very, very easy to stop. And in this scene, the Guardians of the Galaxy theme plays.
Stay here.
There's lots of musical callbacks in this episode, for instance right here when we see the theme from Doctor Strange. Now, over in the reality where Killmonger won, we see that he has become High King of Wakanda, probably by killing T'Challa. But his kingdom has fallen into ruin. So, all you bloggers who wrote those Killmonger were right think pieces were wrong. The world would have ganged up on him and destroyed Wakanda, especially if they had Shuri making weapons for them. Now, you'll remember that that episode ended with her making an alliance with Pepper.
So, let us open their eyes together.
And now notice that Pepper is carrying a weapon that looks like the one that Phil Coulson used in the Avengers.
Even I don't know what it does.
Now that weapon was repurposed from the body of the Destroyer when it tried to kill Thor, which means that in this timeline, Thor did still travel to Earth and those cosmic events kind of unfolded like they did in the main MCU. This show is so great because it has a very relatable premise. Everybody's looked at their life and, wondered, what if? I think, what if I would have learned an instrument when I was younger or paid attention in French class?
Je m'appelle Claude.
Je te flute flee.
But today, we don't have to ask what if. You have endless opportunities to challenge yourself and learn new skills. That's why I joined Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. See, I've been wanting to expand into podcasting, and they have classes on everything from what gear to buy to how to publish your episodes. And it worked. I published my own podcast, Rick Pulsar, Galactic Knight of Space Justice. And these are just a few of the thousands of classes they offer for creative people like you. Maybe you want to do what I do and make YouTube videos with slick motion graphics. There's classes waiting for you. Or maybe you're already an artist and you want to learn how to sell your work freelance. Then you can join one of Skillshare's many business classes. Plus, they're always launching new premium classes, so there really is something for everyone. The site is here for you to learn, so there's no ads, and this helps you stay focused on following your own creative voice. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare Premium, so you can explore your creativity. Back to the Easter eggs. And then we go to Nidavellir, where I'm sure a lot of you have some questions. We're going to go over this in another video, but this is from the lost episode of this season. Basically, because of COVID, they had to push this episode back to season 2. So we're going to explain that in another video and make another video that answers all of your questions. So subscribe and smash that bell so you can see that one coming. Notice that Eitri still has his hands because, as the Watcher says, Gamora has killed Thanos. So Thanos was not around to harm Eitri. He also calls her
Survivor of Sakaar.
Now, Gamora is not Sakaarian. She apparently fought in the tournament on Sakaar. And so did Tony, judging by the Sakaaran markings on his armor, very reminiscent of Jack Kirby's work. Tony says,
"How do we put a suit of armor around the world?"
His famous line from Age of Ultron.
"I see a suit of armor around the world."
Much like Boromir in the One Ring, Tony is tempted to use this great power for good. And as Ultron proves in this finale, this power will only be corrupted for evil. This is probably the exact reason why the Watcher didn't want him.
Not you, Stark.
Hi. Not you.
And this is why he chose Gamora. He needed a fighter who recognized the Infinity Stones could be used for such great evil and who wouldn't be tempted by them. And now it is interesting that Eitri already had a mold for the Infinity Gauntlet without Thanos being around to commission it. Gregory Baysor says that this could lend credence to the theory that Odin once pursued the stones and originally commissioned the gauntlet. But once he found out the price for the Soul Stone, he walked away.
I'm out.
Also, I just noticed for the first time that the Watcher has a little web on his chest. This could be a reference to the web of the multiverse that characters like Madam Web are able to access, or a nod to the Spider-Verse, the first time any of these franchises have explored alternate realities, because J.J. Abrams' Star Trek
It doesn't count.
But also, Jordan71009 points out on Twitter that, oh god, no, it's a hexagon!
Not the beast!
But seriously, 6 sides, 6 Infinity Stones, and the lines of the triangle could symbolize how they're all part of a larger multiverse. And you know, I don't blame Robert Downey Jr. for not coming back on this show. He is the Kenny of What If. But if anything, this just shows Tony Stark's importance. When Tony lives, things turn out just fine. When he dies, reality crumbles. Then we end on Party Thor fighting Ultrons in Vegas, saying,
We were about to go on a date!
Which seems like a variation of Steve's famous tragic line.
I had a date.
And as Will Watkins on Twitter points out, when they're all summoned, it's edited just like Thor coming through the tunnel in Ragnarok. They end up in the pub originally seen in First Avenger, which was also Captain Carter's hangout in Episode 1. But this is actually in the end of existence reality that Strange Supreme has destroyed. We can see his spells around the pub holding this pocket reality in place. Thor gets a magic beer just like in Ragnarok. And later he'll smash his glass.
I do not have time for
A callback to this.
another!
And I like this long look that Eric gives this vibranium head. See, he's seen nanotech before and he's already working out how to use it. And of course, this was exactly why the Watcher chose him, because he would inadvertently keep the stones away from any other user. The idea of carrying around Ultron's head is also from the comics. It's how he returned in West Coast Avengers #2. The Watcher then christens
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Sorry, wait, I meant this.
The Guardians of the Multiverse.
Which would be a cool reveal if it wasn't in every trailer for the show. When Strange explains the Infinity Stones, he casts an illusion very much like Wong's in Infinity War. And when Ultron uses the power cosmic, it's portrayed as dots just like in the comics. Or this could also be a nod to the dimensional hopping effect that we see in Spider-Verse. Gamora unveils her Infinity Stone Crusher, probably another holdover from her lost episode. Gregory Bayshore points out that in this scene, the Soul Stone is beside T'Challa. The Mind Stone by Killmonger and the Power Stone is between them, which symbolizes their differences. Both are powerful men, but one draws power from empathy and compassion, while the other draws it from cunning and calculation. Later, when Strange casts protection spells around them, this one has the exact same pattern as Steve's shield. Now, this got me thinking about how we see a shield in Babylon in the Eternals trailer that's very similar to Steve's shield. Like maybe this image keeps occurring throughout the multiverse as a symbol of protection.
On the other hand, it could just be an amazing coincidence.
And I just want to point this out. Listen to Strange's pronunciation of Ultron.
And Ultron holds all of them.
It's just like Paul Bettany's.
You think I'm a child of Ultron?
This is a rare instance of Benedict Cumberbatch letting his English accent slip through the character. Speaking of slipping through, for a moment the entity of the tentacle monster bursts out of him. And we theorized in another video that this entity was Shuma-Gorath, potentially one of the villains in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. See, it's telling that Peggy recognizes the tentacles immediately, because she fought this monster in her episode. So then the fight begins. Notice that as Ultron uses each stone, they light up, just like Thanos' gauntlet in Infinity War. And this line,
all too easy,
seems like a tribute to this.
All too easy.
The protection spells that Strange casts around them are covered in runes, the magic that he learned from Cagliostro in episode 4. Strange creates multiple Mjolnirs using the same duplication spell that we saw him cast in Infinity War. Now, I initially thought that the hammer dragging Peggy along would mean that, okay, she's not worthy yet. But Gregory Baysor reminded us that at this point, Odin has not cast the worthiness spell. So, just like the hammer resting on Carol's chest, this is more about the weight of the metal itself, I guess. Something doesn't add up. And Ian Hunter on Twitter points out that Thor's fall backwards seems like a nod to Star-Lord's minus the filthy obscene gesture. Filthy, filthy boy, bad, filthy boy. And Thor cuts off Ultron's arm, hashtag justice for Claw.
Do I look like Iron Man Stark?
So T'Challa stole the Soul Stone and used it as a way to power the Infinity Crusher. Now I do have a theory on that I'm going to talk about in our Plot Holes Explained video, because look, there's just too darn much in this episode to cover in one video. So then they drop all the Marvel zombies, including Zombie Steve, Falcon, Clint, and this one's your mom. And we get the return of the best what-if villain, Zombie Wanda. You know, look, Wanda and Vision have the weirdest relationship in any reality. It was strange enough when it was a witch doing a robot, and then it was a being of chaos energy doing a memory of a robot, and now it's a zombie witch fighting an omnipotent robot. And look, I know Vision,
Not a robot.
he's a synthezoid, but it didn't roll off the tongue the same way. When Peggy and the others are being sent through the multiverse, I liked that the effect was very similar to moving through the Bifrost, but with the Power Cosmic Spider-Verse dots added in. When they meet Natasha, Peggy has to prove their friendship. She says that her Da's name is Alexei, referencing the Red Guardian from Black Widow. But she also says,
Your father is Ivan?
which both we and Natasha learned was the name of her father in Endgame.
Because you know your daddy's name?
I didn't.
And in the last battle, Natasha uses Alexei's shield that we saw her recover in the last episode. When Ultron attacks him in his full cosmic form, Strange just consumes his energy because, well, that's what Strange Supreme does. He's been practicing doing this for like hundreds of years. And Yuri Telfer on Twitter says that Peggy and Natasha beating up on Ultron was reminiscent of Steve and Bucky fighting Tony in Civil War. And also notice that this version of Gamora is wearing the battle armor that we saw her wear in Endgame, and she's carrying her dad's helicopter sword.
Destroyer of Thanos.
Now, I like how during the fight they focus on the stone, very reminiscent of the opening to Guardians 2 when the focus stays on Baby Groot dancing and the battle around him is secondary. Strange is able to combat Ultron with his own Time Stone, which, just to nitpick, in the comics would not have worked because the Power Stone actually augments the strength of all the other stones. But whatever, it's just a TV show, and Strange uses the stone as a last resort just as he does in Infinity War. Now, this shot of Strange flashing all the monsters that he's consumed in episode 4 is epic. It looks like it was ripped straight off a comic book page, and later we'll actually see him as the combined form of all these monsters. Then they hold down Ultron just like the heroes did to Thanos in Infinity War, while Gamora runs her little Infinity Stone combine over his chest. Unfortunately, it does not work because the stones work a little differently in every reality. So, hold the phone. If Tony Stark snapped away Thanos by using the stones from 3 different realities, then doesn't mean that Thanos could potentially return because the snap wasn't permanent.
No!
Afterwards, Thor says,
Is that it? Is it over?
echoing Stark's line from the Avengers.
What just happened? Please tell me nobody kissed me.
And then, of course, we get the circle shot, a variant of when the Avengers stood together for the first time. Tasha and Peggy get the Zola arrow right in Ultron's eyeball. Now, in this scene, Zola does to Ultron what Ultron did to Jarvis.
Is to end you.
And they even portray it very similarly, as energy in a void, and with each character being identified with a different color. Except Zola manifests himself as his human form, now growing tentacles like the Hydra logo. And afterwards, he appears in Ultron's belly, just like the classic Arnim Zola from the comics. And then Killmonger does a very predictable heel turn, taking the stones, but typical Killmonger, for the right reasons.
With these stones, we could fix our worlds, our lives.
Game Coast P points out this Dragon Ball reference, that Killmonger went Super Saiyan just like Vegeta, and he also wears a modified version of Vegeta's armor. So the way Killmonger took the stones using vibranium nanotech is exactly how Tony Stark pulled off the trick in Endgame. And since this version of Eric was Tony Stark's protege, this makes sense. Then Strange creates a small mirror pocket reality so the two of them can duke it out forever and never hurt anyone else. This is similar to the small pocket of existence that Strange carved out for himself in episode 4, or like the alternate timeline that the Ancient One split off in the same episode. At the end, just like Steve, Peggy longs to return to her own time.
Haven't I earned my happy ending?
And Natasha really lays into the Watcher, which at this point sounds like an audience proxy.
We're just stories to you. We're not real.
Your stories, they are everything to me.
So then Uatu delivers Natasha to the universe where Loki invaded Earth in episode 3. The Avengers theme is playing. As Steve and Carol are fighting off Loki's forces, notice that the shot of them is a single shot, echoing a similar sequence of the team together for the first time in the Avengers. Now it is weird that Loki has the scepter, because in this reality he invaded Earth just after Iron Man 2, but I look forward to your theories on that down in the comments. Either way, just like in the Avengers, Natasha's good at getting her hands on the scepter and knows how to use it, because she's already lived through Loki's invasion of New York in her reality. And then we get to the post-credits scene, which poses a lot of questions. How is Steve still alive? Is he alive? Or is there just a skinny skeleton inside the armor? Is this a version of Steve that actually founded S.H.I.E.L.D. and put himself in suspended animation? But especially, I love how the theme to First Avenger plays here on a few piano notes.
And there's someone inside.
Well, that's all the Easter eggs that I found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.